Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Draves.
And I'm Case.
And coming to you in issue 37, we're going to do a quick WandaVision rundown, and then we're just going to complain about Star Wars for the balance of the episode.
Well, complain. We're going to point out fallacies and problems.
Yeah.
And quickly, we never do anything quickly. We'll have 15 tangents. Wait, what are we doing first? I forgot already.
WandaVision.
Oh, right. Sorry, it was so much content this episode. I just lost track of where we were.
So much content. We got so much content in this episode.
Different topics all over the place. WandaVision episode 7 is where we're starting?
Yes.
All right, go. What happened?
There was an episode. Vision is now outside somehow.
No, he's not.
Outside, inside.
He was inside. Did you watch the episode?
I did.
All right.
It's hard to keep track of what's going on.
Dre-
You know, some circus.
The circus is inside. So whenever the Hex area expanded in episode 6, it took over Sword area and turned it into a circus.
I see.
Do you not remember? I even mentioned it last episode.
I didn't realize that was the circus.
Yeah, the circus is all the sword people that didn't escape.
Could it be that I'm off my game somehow?
Always? Have you been locked away inside your house for a year and a half? I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost as if I've been in some sort of like isolation.
Weird. You should probably get some Nexus. I've heard it helps you place yourself in the reality you wish to be in.
Now, you brought the Nexus thing, and the Nexus thing is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. The Nexus,
because the Nexus
is the commercial, by the way.
The Nexus in the Marvel universe is like the area where all the multiverses intersect.
Correct. So, for those who don't know, we're just trying to jump up. There's a commercial, as always, in WandaVision. It was for a drug called Nexus, and the tagline was, a unique antidepressant that works to anchor you back into your reality or the reality of your choice. So it's kind of hinting at, like what Drave said, the nexus of all realities, which is what Marvel calls it. So is this a hint that we are going to get to multiple realities? Or is it just like everything else and trying to push us away from the truth? But before we talk more about that, let's back up a bit to what actually happened, since Drave apparently can't have the long-term memories. So in this episode, we pick off where we left off. First off, the reason Vision's at a circus is because the Hex grew over and took over the sword encampment and turned him into a circus. So he and the astrophysicist, who once again, name I cannot remember, even though I should have looked it up between now and last time, I just couldn't remember her name, joined forces to try to go from the circus that's on the edge of the town back to Wanda. Oh, and I forgot to totally drop this part. We're also in the 2000s reality TV show, like Office / Modern Family, where they pretend to be interviewed for a documentary. So along the way, there's lots of weird things that try to stop them. This is why I don't know how Drave doesn't know Vision was inside the Hex, but the red lights that wouldn't turn green, and then when it turned green, some blocked the road for them. And after they blocked the road for them, kids started crossing the road randomly in the middle of the street until Vision just realized he could fly, and he dematerialized through the top of the truck and flew to Wanda, and that's the last we saw of him in that episode. So obviously he's still inside the Hex.
I thought he was outside because he did that thing where he struggled to go outside.
Yes, and then she expanded the Hex to save his life.
I see.
Yes, it's okay. I understand. You live in a hard world.
We do. It's just that I've been spending so much time reading these Star Wars books,
which we'll get to.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
Anyhow, so that's the Vision thing. He's just trying to get back to Wanda to help her. So the whole episode is like Wanda's being interviewed like she's in one of these reality TV slow sitcom things, which I really don't like anyhow, but whatever. I think she pulled off really well. But she's talking about how she's like losing control, and like you see parts of her house reimagining itself through the different time periods we've already seen. Like walls are disappearing, or wallpaper's coming back, or the TV turns to an old CRT and then back to a flat screen. The kids' controllers are switching through to different generations of systems, which I should be nerdy enough to tell you which ones I went through, but I didn't really care that much. I know one of them.
I definitely saw a GameCube controller.
I saw GameCube. I saw Wii. I can't remember the other ones. Oh no, Atari. They have Atari one into that, if I remember correctly.
They had like joysticks, right?
Yeah, different joysticks. Yeah, and she was like losing her powers. So like and Vision knew he had to get back to her for some reason and help her. You had a really cute moment with astrophysicist was like, she really loves you, and that was kind of cute. That was a good interaction between them in the circus van. What is that, ice cream truck? I forget what they took. It might have been just a food truck. So like you're learning about Wanda doing the not being able to control her powers anymore, it seems. And so that's kind of her story. We'll come back to her in a second. since she seems stressed out, Agnes, her neighbor, comes and takes the boys over to her house so that she can relax. And then we'll cut back to that in a second. The other big story is Rambo is outside. She met up with her astrophysicist. I think that's what they kept on calling the person, and everyone thought it was going to be like Mr. Fantastic. I think we said maybe that'd be cool with Mr. Fantastic even, or like Ironheart was kind of playing with like a younger person there. Or I think we also mentioned maybe it's just like some spin-off of Tony Stark, a Stark Industries person. But it turns out to be people that I have no
Quentin
idea.
Beck.
Yeah, that would be another one. But like the people that were there are just other sword agents that were on her side because of her mom, I guess. I mean, the only thing I could say, they brought in a all-terrain vehicle that was souped up to her specs. So maybe the person that actually built the vehicle is someone else back at base and not a field agent, so that's why we didn't see him, and they're saving that as maybe a bigger reveal or just to be like a callback later in the future. To like, when they introduce Mr. Fantastic, they introduce him working on that vehicle or something, you know what I'm saying? She gets in it, tries to drive through it, doesn't work, of course, and then she just physically pushes herself through it, and as she's doing it, you see like callbacks to a bunch of different old movies and stuff. Movies. And when she comes out, she has powers. She can see the electrical fields. I think she also had the power to, she did like later, she gets in a fight and she falls to the ground as the hero stance from a great distance.
Like Wanda like pulls her down and you think like, oh, he's just going to like mess her up and like nothing happens.
Yeah. So basically she
totally like handles it.
Yeah, totally. So this is like she's coming back. She's finally becoming, so in the comics she has multiple names, but Photon, Pulsar, even Spectrum was one of her names. So she's finally getting these powers, it seems, that she has always had since she was introduced in like the early 80s and actually in an Amazing Spider-Man comic. And then it's just been around a while. So definitely an origin story. She apparently got her powers. I actually don't know her powers very well. She basically, from our understanding, can form energy within the electromagnetic spectrum and can control cosmic rays and gamma rays and ultraviolet and X-rays. So it's basically she's the gambit of electromagnetic spectrum. I don't know what that means. I've never really read much about her, but is she able to fly? Is she able to shoot stuff? I don't know. I'm actually reading this line here, which confuses me, but it says she's immortal and does not age beyond her prime, which is weird because it seems I doubt that's what they're gonna have in the movie. I mean the show. But yeah, so she finally gets the power, and it seems like she can actually go toe to toe against Scarlet Witch, which would be surprising to tell the truth, because Scarlet Witch is like a high mutant level,
Isn't it like Phoenix and then like Scarlet Witch?
Yeah, actually, I think she's
and then like maybe Captain Marvel, like the like in the Marvel universe, like Scarlet Witch is like even more powerful than Xavier.
Well, I think it's Phoenix, Scarlet Witch, and then Xavier is really close to Scarlet Witch, but they're like, but yeah, Phoenix is always the most powerful, of course. So it is kind of interesting. But again, Scarlet Witch is also in a weird place right now, right? So she's not herself. And in theory, her powers are being used to power this whole hex. So she's already, concentrating on other things. And if anyone knows anything about D&D as a wizard, you need to have a concentration save to not lose your other spells. So she might just be holding it down. And by the way, it's Darcy Lewis is the astrophysicist's name. That's all I want to say. I won't forget again. Forgot already.
World-class preparation for every podcast here at No Life Kings.
It only took me
we had a lengthy production meeting before this episode. I want everyone to know that.
I remembered.
It was like, what, 7 hours?
It was, yeah. And Jimmy Woo is the FBI agent that I also don't know the name of. So anyhow, she broke through that power, got her powers, met with Wanda, and I mean, nothing really happened with the meeting other than Agnes. Like, it was weird because it seemed like Wanda was confused, and then Agnes came over and like said, "Hey, stop bothering her," and like pulled her away. And this is where I guess the big reveal really happens. Is Agnes brings her into her house, and she's like, "Where's my kids?" And it's like, "Oh, maybe they're in the basement." So she goes to the basement and finds this like, I want to say like a druid-like structure, a bunch of vines and old bricks and stuff like that, or like I guess it could be considered a witch. I actually thought it was in my mind, I was thinking this was Baba Yaga, who has the house that has chicken legs and walks around, and it's just been sitting next to her house, and that's why it's
Wait,
like
is
hidden.
Baba Yaga a Marvel thing?
No, Baba Yaga is a Slavic cultural thing,
Yeah, it's like a
but
Russian. It's like a Russian boogeyman.
a
Well, I
witch
guess it's a
too. But
witch. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but
Yaga means it's feminine. Yes.
yes, but it's been used in many other worlds, right? Baba Yaga is in a bunch of different animes. It was used in some bunch of kids' books. Like it's not. Yes, it is Slavic. I
It
mean,
was also John Wick's nickname.
there's a good example right there. I was also going to say Thor is also not really a Marvel character, right? So they could put Baba Yaga in here without a problem. I just thought it would be like an interesting little twist. But what we find out, she's in the basement, and Agnes comes out, and then they have this like flashback of how Agnes has been controlling the situation from day one. So they show her manipulating all these situations. She's even manipulating Pietro when he shows up, which makes me wonder again, is Pietro actually from a different dimension, or is she just controlling somebody that looks like the other Quicksilver?
Or do you think she like inserted like the past memory that this is Pietro?
Or something like that, right? Yeah. Because you see like Pietro's at the door and she's like waving her hands and there's purple smoke behind him, right? Oh, she like does something to the neighbor that's like cutting through the brick wall. They show her like she touches him and like purple comes out of her hands and does something to him. There's some other I can't really recall all the changes.
But they also do sort of like a what do you call it, like a bit of a retro where they like go back and like they show her at all these things doing waving purple magic.
Yeah, basically showing from her perspective all the evil manipulative things she did through all the other episodes, which I actually kind of enjoyed. And then she also mentioned, and I did kill the dog, right? Because remember she found the dead dog in the bushes.
Mm.
But instead of just being like, it wasn't just a dead dog, she just killed the dog. And it's because, it's just trying to make her evil, right? Someone who kills a puppy's got to be evil. And so it's one of those, was she doing it maybe to try to force, it seems like she's trying to force a mental break almost in Scarlet Witch.
So it brings up an interesting point because that's actually exactly what I think has happened. So she was fragile. She creates the hex to sort of like get over like the trauma of losing Vision because she really wants a life with Vision. And then
Agnes shows up.
Agnes somehow like enters and is like manipulating this. And I think that she knows that if she can cause like a really deep break somehow, that like the hex will just like consume the world.
So,
And that if she has any sort of power within that, so maybe like the hex makes Agnes more powerful. She's more powerful when she's in the hex. So if she gets, as the hex expands, she becomes like really powerful. If that makes any sense.
no, I will agree that I think I'm not taking my only spin on your idea. We find out later that it seems that more people are believing that Vision's body was taken to be used as a weapon by Sword, right? And that was the thing he didn't want. So I wonder if Wanda took Vision's body, created this environment. For one, she wanted to be with Vision, but two, as a way to hide him away from Sword, who's trying to take his body and make a weapon out of it. Because they show when she finally introduces herself to Wanda, the first thing they show is her floating down onto the street and turning into Agnes's clothes. So it does feel that maybe the hex was already there and she entered it and is using the hex as a way to take I don't know what the goals might be, but at least it maybe makes Scarlet Witch is weaker because she's trying to do the hex. And so now Agnes, maybe, I'm not saying she gets more powerful because of the hex, but maybe it makes Scarlet Witch weaker, so it allows Agnes to manipulate her. Because again, D&D, you have to concentrate on your spells, so she's constantly doing it. But
you're saying that people with ADHD cannot be wizards.
That's according to D&D. Yes, I'm not saying that. Okay. I'm saying rule books. There's concentration on some spells. Not all spells. They could be wizards, but there's like spells like Magic Hand, I believe, has a concentration check. So if you lose concentration, the hand disappears.
I just think that if you work hard, you could be a wizard no matter what your limitations are.
You can. It just might not be know all the spells. That's all I'm saying. But maybe the answer to what Harkness's goals are is based on that book that was sitting in one of the alcoves of the basement.
Tell me more.
Hypothetical. These are guesses. There's something called the Darkhold. It's basically like what the Necronomicon is based on. It was in Marvel lore, an evil elder god, Cholthun, wrote the evil works as spells onto an instructed parchment. They were bound together, of course, into a big book. And it's basically like kind of a super powerful evil book. So I don't know how much and part of the book allows you to control the will of others. I don't recall what the Darkhold's goal was, so that doesn't help us with her goal, but that might be where she's getting her powers from. But there's also like the Tomb of Sarth. I can't say this one. Zaredna, Zhered-Na.
Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
Anyhow, it's another big, powerful book that a sorceress with the same name created in the Marvel universe. And it could also be, there's also the Book of Calistro, which also became one of the Ancient Ones' private collection. That's another book that's famous in the Marvel universe to do dark side type magical arts and also seduce her students with.
Is that the book where like Caecilius takes the page out of it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's some. I feel that you might be a little bit right. I think I'm probably gonna be. I'm falling towards the Darkhold, and maybe not Elder God Chthon is the creator of it in the MCU, but maybe someone like Mephisto or some other demon that's a well-known character, and he wants this hex to spread because he wants to bring hell onto Earth, or vice versa, right? Or control at least the surface world. So I think you mentioned before that maybe Mephisto could be the big bad in the next phase, because we have Doctor Strange, who constantly combats with Mephisto coming up, following from, and they mentioned multiple times that Wanda's going to roll into Doctor Strange, or maybe it's just the big bag for Doctor Strange movie.
I still think we're getting Kang the Conqueror.
I think Kang the Conqueror might be the big movie where we combined all the other movies into one movie, but each movie has to have its own bad, right? So I could see the book being used to summon Mephisto or something to that nature.
Mephisto the person that Ghost Rider makes the deal with?
Yeah, he's like the devil of Marvel, but they couldn't call, because of the comic code back in the day, you weren't allowed to have the devil in your book. So they named a character Mephisto who looks like the devil and basically does the devil. So he is the devil. Oh, I didn't even realize. Sorry, I'm just looking at some photos.
The comic code?
So, wow. Yeah. So in the olden days,
are you surprised I don't know this?
Yeah, I am actually. So I can't remember when it started. It was probably the 50s or 60s, somewhere around there. So, Superman came out, super popular, and you had all these comics coming out, and you eventually started having horror movies like Tales of the Crypts and stuff like that coming out, right? And at some point, I think it was really during Wonder Woman when she started becoming popular, this guy whose name escapes me right now basically wrote the standard thing you hear about every new medium every time they're created, that comic books were corrupting children to become evil people, just like rock music, just like techno, just like industrial music, just like TV, just like movies. But he was able to basically strong arm, I think it was an independent, it's ran by an independent agency, this thing called the Comic Code. And it's basically, this is why movies self-regulated their, R, PG-13 stuff, because they were scared that this could happen to them. But basically the Comic Code, I can't remember all the rules off it, but you couldn't have police officers in the comics in a bad light. They always had to be good guys. You couldn't have bad police officers. You couldn't have drugs. No one could be addicted to drugs. You couldn't have like zombies or the undead. I think you were allowed to have you could have werewolves, but you couldn't call them werewolves, because it was also even an issue that there was a writer whose name was Wolfman. And there was, I think he was trying to write a comic for Marvel, and they weren't allowed to put his name on the cover because his name was Wolfman. So they had like these really crazy rules about how that you can write a comic to get that stamp of approval. And most places comics sold would only sell comics with that stamp of approval on it. So Marvel, DC, all the big guys followed the comic book code. And that's why you didn't have dark stories for like 30 years.
So no drugs, no drug addicts. Police are only good people. No devil.
Yeah, basically everything that makes comics fun.
No werewolves. It's just like it's an accurate reflection of real life.
Wow. I mean, don't tell that werewolf behind me. But yeah, there's even more strange rules around it too. And basically what you do is you create your comic. You have to send it off to this other third party person to approve it, right? I actually have the list of rules. I'm going to go over them really fast because I think it's an interesting concept. So basically, this happened in 1954, by the way, is when this started. So crime should never be presented in such a way that creates sympathy for a criminal or promotes a distrust in the forces of law or justice. That's like the first rule. If crime is depicted, it shall be sordid and an unpleasant activity. Policemen, judges, government officials, and respected institutes shall never be presented in such a way that creates disrespect for established authority. Criminals shall not be presented so as to be rendered as glamorous or occupy the position which creates a desired form of emulation. In every instance, good shall triumph over evil, and crime is punished for misdeeds. Scenes of excessive violence shall be prohibited. Scenes of brutal torture, excessive blood, blah, blah, blah. No comic magazine shall use the word horror or terror in its title. All scenes of horror, bloodshed, gore, gruesome crimes, depravity, lust, blah, blah.
It's very good you repeated that word because I thought you said something else the first time.
I realize, I know.
So I was like, was that a 1-syllable word or a 2-syllable word?
It was a 2-syllable.
And I was very relieved that it was a 2-syllable word.
Well, I might go this way till I get down lower.
Also guessing you couldn't use the 1-syllable word in a title either.
Probably not. All lurid, unsavory, gruesome illustrations shall be eliminated. Inclusion of stories dealing with evil shall be used or shall be published only where the intent is to illustrate the moral issue, and in no case shall evil be presented alluring, nor so as injure the sensibility of the reader. Scenes dealing with or instruments associated with the Walking Dead, torture, vampires, vampirism, ghouls, cannibalism, and werewolferism are prohibited. Profanity, obscenity, smut, vulgar, or words or symbols which have been associated are forbidden. Nudity in any form is prohibited. Suggestive and salacious illustrations or suggestive postures is unacceptable. Females shall be drawn realistically without exaggeration of any physical qualities. I almost say with no physical qualities. Illicit sex relations are neither to be hinted at or portrayed. Rape scenes as well as sexual abnormalities are unacceptable. Seduction and rape shall never be shown or suggested. Sex perversion or any inference of the same is strictly prohibited. And nudity with meretricious purpose or salacious postures shall not be permitted in advertising of the comics. So that's basically what the code started as. They updated it over time to add more stuff, of course.
So when did the code go out of vogue?
It was like the 80s it kind of started to die out.
So is that like Watchmen, basically like the thing that sort of like put them over the top was that they were like definitely like not in line with that code?
It was actually Marvel and DC doing stuff. Before that, there was because like you had Iron Man, not Iron Man's the comic that you have now,
Demon in the Bottle.
Yeah. So he's he's addicted to a drug. There's another like drug story. There's a lot of times when Stan Lee like wrote stories that he wanted to show, hey, I can tell a story about drug abuse and it can be portrayed. It's actually a Spider-Man story. Portray drug use in a dangerous and hilarious way. So so the code would allow like these little things to get through, and it kind of chiseled away at the code over time.
I see.
And it was like
going through.
What was that?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So by the 80s, it was basically able to chisel away at these things by like slowly pushing the envelope. And oddly enough, it was like Moonlight number 21 is an example of like the first time zombies started coming back, and that was in July of 1982. So it was actually not too long. I mean, it's within our lifetime that this existed. I actually remember the code. The code used to be on the comics and stuff. But like, so the 80s is also when the big dark time happened. Not dark as in bad. I mean, as in dark comics like Watchmen and Batman Returns, because the code is basically thrown out at that point and no one follows it anymore.
So
anyhow, that's the quick history of it. It's actually insanely more crazy than that. Like I could spend like an hour talking about it. Anywho, I forget why we went on this tangent. WandaVision. Oh yeah, the book. So Mephisto, that's why he exists, and he's not the devil or a demon as a way to get around the comic code. So I think that's my one bet is maybe they're using this as a way to get Mephisto onto the field. And just so everyone knows, another reason why I feel this is in the comics, Wanda actually used part of Mephisto's soul to create her two kids.
Well, that would create a problem.
She takes the fragments from his soul to create them. Because in the comics, she created them. They were like born, but eventually they disappear and he reabsorbs them. So maybe that's why. Maybe she did take his soul. And that's why Agatha babysits them, and that's why they disappeared to give Mephisto back his soul. And on a happier note, let's talk about Star Wars.
It's okay. I've gone on an exploration, and I had a friend that passed away last year, and one of the things that was given to me by this friend's parents was this person's Star Wars book collection. And they said, so and so told us that you were never really a huge Star Wars fan, and he was always trying to get you to read these books. So basically they said, would you at least like read a couple of them and then donate the rest of them to the library? And I said, yeah, sure. But I've decided that I'm going to read all of them. This entire massive collection that was basically bequeathed to me.
How many is all of them?
I believe the number is 35.
Okay, that's not unreasonably long.
But I'm learning so much, and I'm going deep. And I have to say, the Old Republic era is basically the best. And this whole Skywalker saga thing completely sucks. And really what they should do is the Star Wars universe, they should tell the Obi-Wan story because Obi-Wan's amazing. But all the other stuff we can just do without. So like basically what you need to have is like Old Republic, Obi-Wan. That's really it.
So I'm a tracholite when it comes to Star Wars books. I've only read 2, both of them new books that came out after Force Awakens, because I was really interested in the Star Wars again.
The Force Awakens within case.
I didn't read the Force Awakens novelization of the movie. There was like a book that was like it was actually interesting take. It was 2 kids on a planet they were both, I can't remember how this worked. They both were trying to become Imperial TIE fighter people. But the one was like a rich family, I believe, and it's been a while since I've read it. And so she had the more ins to get there, and then the other one's from a poor family, so he was like, didn't have the pathway. But the one that was trying to join the Imperial forces believed that the Imperial was making the world better. It was paying people.
Oh, is this Lost Stars?
It might be. I can't remember the title of it. And the other, so it's this whole like dichotomy of, I think at the end she realizes that Imperial is wrong, but the other guy thinks that the Republic is wrong. So it's like this cross.
So this is actually something with the whole Imperial thing that has bothered me, which is that they never go into why the Empire is actually bad. So like, look, I get it. It's run by a Sith Lord, but if you're an everyday person living in the Empire, what's so bad? So what's going on?
Someone made this. I made the same statement to somebody because I got really mad while playing a game with somebody, and they were like, "Well, they enslaved planets. They use resources." I'm like, but if you read the Legends book, under the Republic, there was still slavery. There was still like certain planets had slavery, certain planets did bad stuff. It wasn't like the Republic.
Before the Empire, Anakin and his mom were slaves.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it wasn't like prior Empire there was no slavery.
So you could make the argument that the Republic was bad.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it had slaves.
Obviously they were, right? I'm not making the argument slavery's bad. So it's not
but I guess there's a question as to whether it was actually legal or illegal in the Republic. Like it could have been illegal and still been going on.
True, I guess, and they just didn't enforce it. It's still bad, right? We could say.
Yes, I think we at No Life Kings will come down on the side of slavery is bad.
I'm just saying, if you have a government in control that turns a blind eye on slavery, even though they say slavery is bad, because it wasn't like they were hiding slavery. It was like you just go to that planet and it's obviously in your face.
Oh, I guess like the implication with Anakin and his mom is they were sure, but like Tatooine may have been like on like is it maybe it's in the Outer Rim, or maybe like the control, like the rule of law is not as established there. I guess theoretically Rey was a slave too.
Well, she technically got paid though, didn't she? Like she would scavenge food and give it to that big guy, and that big guy would give her stuff, food. And
yeah,
like she got.
I guess it was more of like
indentured servitude. Well, not servitude. It was more like illegal immigrants type thing where you got screwed over because you had no rights, but technically you weren't a slave. I air quoted that again.
See, like, yeah, like there was a lack of economic opportunity for her.
Correct. I'm just saying, and that's after the Empire fell too. So the new Republic that took over didn't seem to be making things better. Have you learned any of this in the Old Republic stories? How this is better? So anyhow, this book was interesting because they kind of drove down to why people would join the Imperial, because it was that thing. It's like, well, they're bringing order to the chaos of this universe. They're bringing law and order, and they're gonna like enforce this standard and stuff. But I think it was one of those things of like in Rome, if you're the Roman and you were well off, yeah, Rome was great, right? But if you weren't Roman and they were coming to puts you under bring laws from chaos, not so good for you type thing is how it kind of goes.
So it just to me, it's never. So in the Old Republic, you kind of understand why like the Emperor is bad. Like he like takes the life force from an entire planet. He's bad.
Well, yeah, I mean they do bad things 100%. I'm not saying the Empire is good.
I mean, until the Empire blows up Alderaan, you're kind of like, this may not be so bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people might say it was a war and we need to drop a nuclear bomb on the individual cities to enforce surrender from our opponents. That too close to home?
I think that when you break it all down,
all governments
and you
are bad.
examine who killed the most people, you know who it was, Case.
Qui-Gon. Yoda.
You do really? You don't know who killed the most people in Star Wars?
No. Luke.
Jar Jar.
He did empower the Empire.
Exactly.
I mean, there is that whole like joke running gag that he's actually a Sith Lord.
No, that's not. It's not a joke. He's a Sith Lord. It's just that like we'll never know the truth now because people jumped on the character and didn't allow it to be explored. But like first of all, he clearly did a very high jump in Phantom Menace. That seemed like to be like a force sensitive jump.
Clearly,
he like magically was like killing people with like a blaster that was stuck to his leg.
No, those
and
were
like
he was killing robots, not people. But
he was just a little bit too clumsy. Like like it seemed like it was an act.
Yeah, and he just happened to say the right words at the right time to put the Emperor into power.
Yeah, and then like he's Darth. He's I don't know Darth Banks. I don't know what you call him. Darth Jar Jar.
Darth Jar.
Whatever. We don't need to get into all this, but like Jar Jar kill, like this whole plan was put into place with Jar Jar, like kind of like I think that Jar Jar was the backup sort of like apprentice, like if Dooku and Anakin didn't work out.
I mean, or was he the one pulling the strings of the Emperor?
Maybe like you know what would have been kind of crazy is if you went to like Force Awakens and instead of Snoke, it's Jar Jar.
That's what I'm saying. Well, maybe it still is. Maybe the Emperor was just he's just a clone. So who created the clone of the Emperor to bring back the Emperor? Someone had to create it, right?
I'm just saying that there's a lot here, Case.
I agree with you, but let's roll back a little bit here. I agree with you that Star Wars needs to get rid of Skywalker, but here's my fear. This is like so bad. They're going to make an Old Republic movie, but was it Rebels or Clone Wars? I can't remember which one it was. They introduced the capability to time travel. So they'll make Old Republic, but the way the Old Republic...
Oh, it was Rebels.
Yeah, the way Old Republic survives...
What's his name pulls Ahsoka Tano out of the thing.
Yes, that's what it is, yeah. So in Old Republic, the way it actually becomes empowered or whatever is because Luke time travels back in time, shows up, does a Deus Machina to save whatever person they need to save, and then goes back to the future because it has to be about Skywalker. Has to be. There has to be a Skywalker there. Or we'll find out that his great-great-great-grandfather was the founder of the Jedi or something. There's no way they'll make a Star Wars without a Skywalker. I thought they did with Mandalorian, and no, they kicked me in the face. There has to be a Skywalker. Or at least a tie to a Skywalker event. She's going to call it Skywalking.
The death of Skywalker. Why does it have to be the rise of Skywalker? Why couldn't they just been like Skywalker's done now?
Well, because Skywalker's the last name, and she took the last name because she met him for a week. That's why I changed my last name. I met some dude when I was on a trip to San Francisco, and I was like, whoa, I've got to change my name to be your name. Screw my parents who, escaped and protected me from the evil father. I don't want their name.
And were tortured and killed.
Yeah, whatever. What'd they do for me? So wait. We're saying Star Wars is good now because you read some books and the Old Republic's good? How many books have you read?
The books are better. The books are better. I'm through like 10 of them now.
How many have you read? Not Old Republic.
So Master and Apprentice is an Old Republic. I guess the Darth Bane trilogy is technically Old Republic. I read that before though. I guess the Revenge of the Sith novelization, episode 3, that's not Old Republic, and that one's fantastic, by the way. The book is so much better than the movie.
That's weird. I mean, usually books are better than the movie. That was a really bad movie.
The episode 3 novelization is one of the best science fiction books I've ever read.
Have you read many science fiction books?
Look, I'm as shocked as anyone else is, but when you read the episode 3 novelization, it's actually really good. It puts the movie to shame. If they should have just hired that writer to write the screenplay.
Well, did he write the book after the movie was out though?
I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it is easier to have 35 books and have a good 5 of them or 8 of them versus having 8 movies and having all 8 of them be good. So I'm not sure if the Old Republic's good or it just happens to be something new and you pick the right ones to read.
So this is what I think. So I think there's some selection bias because like usually like the books that this person had were selected and curated, right?
Right.
However, I would say that the Old Republic was never tainted by movies, so the amount of detail you get is like much higher.
Right. No, I get that. I just more mean yeah, maybe that's what it is that you're reading Old Republic, so you have none of the baggage of the movies that have to be carried. Like, I guarantee anyone who wants to write a book within the Skywalker time frames need to include certain things to actually write that book because Disney wants that.
Sure.
And and probably all the books you're reading, well, majority of them are probably considered the legends.
Non-canon, yeah.
Yeah, non-canon now. So...
But so this is another area that's actually quite troublesome, which is that they technically Old Republic is no longer canon.
Correct.
But they can't contradict it because they still have IP like the games and stuff like that that are out there that are like the MMORPG.
No, but they say that that's a legend. Let's say it's a legend story. You're playing like it'd be like us playing a story about Camelot, right? There is the true Camelot, and then there's the legend of Camelot. And what we all know is the legend of Camelot. We actually don't know the true story of Camelot. So that's how they play this, is you can have this game, but the game you're experiencing is based on the legend of the Old Republic. So if we do an Old Republic movie, it doesn't have to follow any of the rules. And even stuff that happens in Old Republic, we can pull that out and happen in a different time period because we could just say, well, over thousands of years, those just seem to happen at the same time.
I got you.
All right. So...
Like I understand what you're saying, but you also understand what I'm saying, right?
I know what you're saying. I just don't think they care. I don't think Disney cares about any books before that they put into the legacy world and have to follow any rules towards it.
And that is the problem, is that I just feel like there was this really great universe in books that I feel like Disney just doesn't leverage enough. And I even hear the comic books are great. I asked a common friend of ours recently to recommend one. I was like, where do I start? I want to read the comic books. Because apparently the comic books, especially in the Vader storylines, are really good.
So I read Vader Down and some of the other Vader stuff. I was reading the standard Star Wars stuff. It was whatever. Yeah. Anything that had the Skywalker stuff was whatever to me. But I read Vader Down, and I think that's it was one of those things where it's like, see, this is what Vader should have been. And it's not what he is. And it actually makes me hate the prequels more because it's like, if we could have had this as Vader, it would have been epic. And I think the biggest moment for me is there's a scene. So basically Vader's crashed on the planet. He's by himself. And the Republic sends a bunch of troops. They're like, oh, Vader's down. We can finally get him. We can finally kill Vader, right? They have surrounded with a bunch of troops, a bunch of tanks. And like Vader's already like been cutting through some people. And he's like standing there with his lightsaber. And they're like, like, hey, surrender. We got you surrounded. There's nothing you can do. And Vader is like, kind of like looks and does like a little hand signal. And like all the pins of all the grenades of all the troops around him get pulled.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking awesome. He's like, well, that's how you use the fucking Force, right? It's not like a one-on-one attack. It's like, if you can do that with a Force, that's insanely awesome.
So this is actually another conversation I had with a common friend of ours, which is that the Force is like so like weirdly applied and misapplied and like whatever. Like you can never tell like what is the Force and like how powerful is it actually.
Right.
So seemingly like Anakin was supposed to have all these midichlorians, but Darth Vitiate apparently just like took the souls of an entire planet. Like
there is no.
Seems like Vitiate's more powerful.
Well, yeah, I'm still not sure if Darth was supposed to be the most powerful Force user or the most powerful Jedi. Remember, he was only supposed to bring the balance to the Force. It wasn't saying he was the most powerful Force person.
I don't know. So then you go to Clone Wars, which is canon. Anakin is able to bring the Force gods of Mortis to kneel before him because he's so powerful.
But you go to the Force Unleashed, and that dude can pull a Death Star from the sky. Not Death Star, a Star Destroyer from the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Force is insanely inconsistent. But I think what that scene to me was where they pulled the pins of the grenade is a new way to look at the Force. Because even like pulling pins from grenades isn't a dark side force. It's just telepathy, right? It's just pulling pins. And it's the evil, and well, not just the evil, the thought process to do it is mind blowing for Darth Vader. Like it's like this. I'm not surrounded. What do you got? You guys are in trouble because you're going against me. Versus like the whole, oh, I'm gonna go cut you down with all my my lightsaber. Like the power that if they showed more of those little things of how force can be so powerful. Because think about like if you could do stuff to like you can make up your opponent's jet fly into the missile you shot.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like those little things where it's like, no, you don't need to show me crushing a Death Star. Show me that the unique ways that the slight little changes can do with the force can also change the outcome.
So what you're saying is there's like a way to use the force that is neither, it's not like force lightning, which means, oh dude, you're totally evil when you're using force lightning, which I'm still not entirely sure why that's like a thing. Okay.
And it's really just throwing your it's kind of a dumb power because you can block it with a lightsaber.
So, but I mean, like Jedi don't use it.
But all Jedis have lightsabers, so everyone should be able to block it. I don't know how anyone ever dies from force lightning who's a Jedi because you can block it with your lightsaber.
It matters like who is shooting the lightning at you and how powerful they are.
I mean, like the most powerful Sith Lord shot it at Rey and she blocked it with her lightsaber and rejected it back into him.
But that was only when she had the power of like all the Jedi flowing through her.
No, it showed the lightning her lights. She didn't do anything other than put her sword up. There was no like force moment there.
Well, I mean, if you look at I think is it episode 2 when Dooku kind of like easily like force lightnings Anakin, and then like Obi-Wan just sort of like blocks it because he's Obi-Wan and he's the best. And everyone else sucks.
It just seems that no one, maybe people don't know this secret. I'm just saying, force lightning is a pretty dumb power because you can block it. But sure. obviously, there's a really lot of bad Jedis out there that don't realize you can block it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the power level matters. It also matters is like this is actually brought up in the book Master and Apprentice. Qui-Gon made Obi-Wan stay in like the defensive like version of like lightsaber training for like an excessively long time.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he ended up becoming a Form 3 practitioner, which is Sorensu. And Sorensu is a defensive style. So like what happens is like Obi-Wan is like a great defender.
Yes.
And then he uses Ataru, which is the style that Yoda and Qui-Gon use for when he goes kind of like on the offense. And so he's really good with the lightsaber, even though he's very bad with the Force. And he's such a good Jedi that he killed Anakin. He could have killed Anakin. Like he could have just taken him out.
Yeah, but Anakin was just the Anakin you're talking about is the dumb movie Anakin. He would not have take out the Darth Vader that was in Darth Vader Down.
Sure, yeah. Once Obi-Wan cut his arm, both legs, and presumably also his penis off.
I'm just saying
I think that once Obi-Wan cut Anakin's balls off, he stopped thinking with them and thus became Darth Vader and was like this more intellectual.
I'm just saying they made Darth Vader bad in the movies. We all agree. I think everyone agrees with this in the world.
And so that's my next question is why is Darth Vader's voice so low if Obi-Wan cut his balls off?
It's all, I mean, the same, it's a voice modulator. It's not his real voice, obviously. I mean, if you lost your voice, wouldn't you get a voice modulator? I mean, he's half robot already. And he wears his helmet the whole time. Never talks to anyone without it on.
What about when he's dying?
I don't remember his voice. He's whispering because he's dying. So it's like soft. He's like, dying. Right.
Actually, I'm going back to the film here. And it doesn't look like Obi-Wan cuts high enough to actually get his nuts. But like, wouldn't that have been better? Wouldn't that have been like Anakin?
Or they just make Darth Vader awesome.
I'm going to leave your limbs, but I'm going to take your nuts. And hopefully this will teach you a lesson.
Or they just make Darth Vader awesome and not some emo boy. Like, wouldn't it have been better if Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader fought to a draw and without emo boy and they're like doing all these cool Force stuff and it's not just lightsabering because you both have Force. And
well, they do use the Force during that thing.
Not really. They jump a lot.
No. I mean, like they try to use the Force and they push each other like both ends, right?
Why didn't Darth Evil Emo Boy do any Force lightning? Why didn't he do the evil spells? Is only dark power lightning? By the way, I can't even think of any other evil dark side.
No, there's dark lightning and then just being a dick. Those are the two things you can do on the dark side that you can't do on like the.
I actually have come to the conclusion I think the Force is garbage. At least how it's been shown everywhere.
It's like when what's his when when Obi-Wan's like Chancellor Palpatine is evil, right?
Yeah.
He's like he's used Force lightning and he's also just genuinely a dick. That's all you need. Those are the only two arguments you need.
Like that was
And Anakin should be like, yeah, he's kind of a dick, and he did use the Force lightning. I see your point.
the one thing. Again, back to the Rey thing. Lightsabers, you can use those if you're not a Jedi. You don't need the Force to use a lightsaber. It's shown in the newest movies whenever Finn picked one up and used it without a problem.
No, I think Finn is Force sensitive. I think that's the thing he's actually trying to tell Rey the whole time. People think it's gonna be like, I love you. It's not. It's that like he can feel the Force.
Yeah, whatever. That's still well, then that goes back to the whole like, do you even need training to use the Force if he can pick up the lightsaber and just use it? I mean, even Luke, who has never known anything about the Jedi, turns on the lightsaber without a problem.
So this is like another problem.
What?
Which is that in the book Master and Apprentice, they talk about how like somebody went to the Jedi Academy at the age of 5, and that was like way too old.
And Luke is way older than 5.
Way older than 5, right? I mean, Anakin's older than that when they find him.
Yoda says no whenever he first comes until Obi-Wan cries to him.
I just gotta tell you that Obi-Wan's allegiance to Qui-Gon, like you don't understand it until you read another book, and that's the problem with the movies. Like why would Obi-Wan like listen to Qui-Gon? Like there's no real reason.
Well,
like okay, Matt, you're my teacher. That doesn't mean like I have to listen to you about everything.
Well, it depends what you mean by the teacher. If you take Jedi like more of a dojo or something like that, where it's more like this is your one-to-one teaching, right? It's not like he has a class of 50 students. I'm doing my what's it called when the doctor, my residency, and this is my mentor at my residency. You don't question the doctor that you're assigned to at residency. So it's the same thing, right? I'm assigned to this dude. This dude's telling me what's right. I have to follow him because if I don't, I get kicked out of the Jedi.
Sure, but once he's dead, and then the other Jedi, the Master Jedi, your boss's 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 boss is like, maybe this is a bad idea. Don't you kind of be like, maybe you're right. Maybe Qui-Gon didn't have all this figured out.
Or maybe you're like, what are you talking about, CEO? You're so detached from the everyday workings of this branch office. How would you know what's good or bad for our branch office?
And then he uses Force lightning on you, and he's like, that is why.
And then you say, oh, are you a dick too? Because I want to make sure you're using you're from the dark side before I attack you back.
Could you imagine a dark side Yoda? Oh, that would be such a good storyline.
Maybe that's going to be Koju.
Like,
Raja? Koju? What's his name? Grogu.
Like, what about like a Yoda clone that was like raised by the Sith, right?
How about no clones? How about it just have a freaking different Yoda that's dark side?
Sure, that's fine. But like, holy crap, that would be so like just like cool to see.
But what would he do? He would just do Force lightning everywhere because that's all you get if you're on the dark side. And he can't have any friends because you have to follow the rules of 2.
Well, you can have one friend who eventually assassinates you. I guess not much of a friendship.
I'm just there's so much dumb stuff in Star Wars.
I mean, the rule of 2 kind of makes sense.
No, it doesn't. We talked about this many times. It makes no sense.
It does. No, it totally makes sense.
No, it does not make sense. It doesn't make sense in any sense of any
There's
world.
too much infighting. So like you need 2 Sith, and like the whole point is like you go get like an Empire and Stormtroopers and stuff like that, and you have them do your bidding.
But if you had an army of Siths, who would stop you? No one.
Sure, but like the problem is that all the Siths
Why?
are dicks.
Why are they
can't work together?
Is there a law that says I have to kill other Sith? Like, do I gain their power or something? Like, why can't Sith work together? It just says that they can't work together. There's no reason they can't work together. Like, why can't they, like, 5 of them get together and be like, all right, guys, we could take over half the universe if we don't kill each other and we split it 5 ways. And everyone would be like, okay, like, yeah, we're evil, but we want power. Like, we don't need to take it from each other. Let's just take over the world. Like, there's
just because we're bad guys doesn't mean we're bad guys.
That's what it is, though. Like, you can have, like, there are gangs in the world that have a high, like, mobs that have a high structure of hierarchy where they're all bad people, but they have a brotherhood within their gang. Like, you don't need to backstab people in your own gang to still, be powerful. Like, that's how it works.
This is what I've been doing with all the gangs that have been starting. This is why it hasn't been working out, Case.
Yes, you don't kill your own members. And usually, all of your own members know it. Like, it's a weird fallacy that if you look at real gangs, that's not how they work.
I have been having a lot of problems with employee retention.
It just bothers me so much. Like, it just seems like a cop-out because they want to make them seem so powerful. But if they had a bunch of them, the Jedis couldn't stop them. And the Jedis are garbage too.
And then you know what I think they needed? The Sith needed like an MBA academy, like leadership training. And it's like, hey guys, like these are our organizational values.
Sure. I mean,
And so like, the whole like betraying each other and killing each other thing, it's counterproductive. And we'd have a much easier time against the Jedi if we sort of just suspended some of that. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna fight these wars against the Jedi, and we're gonna have some sort of like equitable system by which you're rewarded based on your performance.
I mean,
We're gonna move to a meritocracy.
Obviously, you only need really 2 people to beat the Jedi. I mean, Darth Vader basically kills all the fucking Jedi. So if you had 6 of them or 8 of them, what would the Jedi do? The Jedi are worthless.
Like, what about like if you just had like Star Killer and Vader?
Yeah. Well, exactly.
I mean, Star Killer's so powerful, though. Holy crap! They had to make him non-canon because he was so powerful.
I have no idea how the Jedi can win.
Lucas basically said that Star Killer is what Luke would have been had he been like trained by Vader.
But why can't Luke be that without being trained by Vader? Can a Jedi not be powerful? Like, why can't you have a powerful Jedi?
I think the idea is that a Sith will always be more powerful than a Jedi because like a Jedi has like certain rules.
But why? What are the rules? What indicates? It seems like to me all you need to do is be a nice person and not use the lightning force, and you won't be a dark Sith.
I mean, it's a good question. I was
Luke,
like, what else is it?
Luke walked into Jabba the Hutt's house. I don't know, it's a house base.
Yeah, killed a bunch of people
and force choked them to death. It wasn't like he lightsabered them to death. He force choked them to death. So it's not like
make somebody get eaten by that worm and get digested for a very long time.
Well, yeah, he didn't die though, so it's really not murder.
Are you talking about Boba?
Yeah.
So like but that's like my thing, right? Like, but if his intent to murder Boba was there.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
and in murder in a very cruel way.
It seems like the only qualification to become a Dark Lord is use Force lightning, be a dick, and wear black. That's it. There's no other things you're doing.
Actually, didn't Luke wear black when he went to go see Jabba?
Yes, he was wearing black. He actually wore black the last two of the original episodes.
For being a dick, he was wearing black. The only thing he didn't do was Force lightning.
Correct. So like, why isn't he more powerful? Why isn't he the most powerful? Like, why does he need to be trained by Darth Vader?
Is there ever a case where a Jedi Force chokes somebody? You don't see that either.
You do. A Jedi Force choked. Luke is a Jedi. He Force choked somebody.
No, but like, okay, if we say that Force chokes make you a Sith,
we're not.
Luke is a Sith.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't because Luke's not a Sith. Unless that's why he had to kill the Emperor because he knew there could only be 2.
Or is that the long game? It's Luke and Jar Jar.
That would be.
I'm just saying, when episode 10 comes out and you find out that Luke did like a fake disappear thing, and it's Darth Luke and Jar Jar, you heard it here first.
I did find a list of dark side force powers.
Oh, okay.
I don't know any. Alter reality is one of them. I don't want to click on to figure out what that means. Bleeding, apparently.
There are some lightsaber maneuvers that the Jedi don't use. So apparently the maneuver that Kenobi used on Anakin on Mustafar was the Meku maneuver, which was like, basically severing a bunch of limbs, which is not taught to every Jedi. And a lot of Jedi, like, basically, like, most Jedi are like, you're not supposed to use that. But Kenobi was like supposed to be like trained, trained especially to go do that. And I think one of the only other Jedi who did that sort of stuff was Mace Windu, because Windu used a.
But why is that a rule? Who makes these rules up?
Oh, I just think that that's a very cruel strategy to do.
This seems to me that
because to fight to to dismember somebody, like to dismember multiple limbs is very, very cruel as strategy. It only should be used under extreme duress.
I just feel there was a point in the history of the Star Wars universe where there was a bunch of people, we'll say the equivalent to what you would think Tom Brady's star quarterback at high school was. And they're like, hey, let's make a club. And we will learn how to use this force powers, and we'll have these lightsabers, we'll have these cool uniforms. And then there was somebody else that had the force power in their school. And they didn't want that person to be there. So they made all these stupid rules because they didn't want them and basically ostracize that person to be, oh, that person's bad. When we were doing all the bad shit over here, but that person's really bad. And since they're the popular cool kids, that person became the Dark Lord. So I
could see it.
I clicked on Alter Reality. Apparently,
yeah,
a Palpatine at some point unlocked the ability to create his own universe, to reshape reality and fashion a universe of his own instead of immortality. So yeah. Anyhow, there's bleeding. Apparently you make people bleed, because I've never seen that. Dark aura, dark energy trap, dark illusion, dark transfer. So there's also illusion, but there's dark illusion also. You can't have spooky ghosts if you're a Jedi. There's dark lighting. There's
When
also
does the illusion ever get used?
No, I don't know. If I click on it, it's like dark illusion is probably used in a book somewhere. So it's projecting force visions through an ancient Sith ritual using a force bound. Yeah, so it was used. That makes sense. These are all forces from all the books and all the canon. During a galactic conflict known as the Clone Wars is where it was used. Dark Sidious used it.
There's also something called a force bomb, I believe.
Force choke is listed as a dark force, but Luke used it. Force choke, a variant of and at times synonymous with force grip.
I told you. Luke and Jar Jar. Luke Jar Jar 2024.
Although there were some cases where Jedi or others used on lightsaber, would use this technique.
see, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like they rewrite the rules to make Luke the good guy all the time.
That's what. It's because he's in the cool group. He's in the clique of cool kids who write the rules and make themselves seem cool, and the other kids over there that are just as talented, but they don't want them to be as popular. They write rules around it so they can't be it until they need that power. It's like it'd be like in the 50s when that first person started dunking the ball. They'd be like, "Oh, that you don't dunk balls in basketball. That's against the rules." And then slowly they're like, "Oh, if we get a really tall person, we can use this. Dunking's allowed now. Oh, you can't hang on the hoop. Hang on the hoop. That's against the law." Oh wait. That looks cool. That gets us more people watching us.
Yeah.
You can hang on the loop now.
I'm just telling you, I think there's going to be an exceptional long game where Luke and Jar Jar go bad. Like you know what? Forget it. I don't even need this in the main storyline. Just give me like a what if comic book where this happens.
I am just now on the side that Jedi are evil.
Then you truly are lost.
No, I'm not. They make rules to ostracize others.
Overcase, I have the high ground. Don't try it. In
a sword fight, is the high ground actually a good thing? I'm just curious. Like, you won't be able to block my attacks at your legs.
I think that in that specific case, knowing that he couldn't land close to the lava because he would catch on fire, it was fine. All
right. I have a question for you.
Generally, I would say you were right.
Let's end on this question. You or Obi-Wan Kenobi? I'm standing on a platform over lava. We have lightsabers in our hands. And you say to me, I have the high ground. And I'm like, well, I could try to jump over you. I can't jump over you. But you know what I do have? The force pull. Why not just pull you into the lava? I could also throw my lightsaber at you. So I could throw my lightsaber at you, then jump. So you have to block the lightsaber. You know what? I'm a Dark Lord. Why not use my lightning at you so you have to block it and then jump over?
Besides, look.
Lucas is up.
Case. No, look. I'm tired of this garbage from you, okay? Because we all know that jumping over somebody from the lower position to the upper position in a lightsaber fight would lead to you being killed. So and I'll give you an example. Oh wait, no, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan actually pulled that exact maneuver against Darth Maul, and Darth Maul just watched him.
I know, but the Darth Maul sucks though, right?
Well, here's my question then to you here is that, do you think that Obi-Wan kept telling him, Anakin, the story of how he jumped over Darth Maul?
So the long game was the trick.
Well, because he's like, don't try it, Anakin, right? Because I did it, but you couldn't do it, right?
Well, I'm just saying, was it one of those moments of just in case that the Jedi have two? I'm gonna plant this seed into my underling. So if we ever fight each other, and I'll always try to get the higher ground, so then I can goad him into jumping over me.
No, I think generally using his force, sort of whatever his feelings, I guess, right? He sort of knew that Anakin was unbalanced, and he could goad him into doing something stupid.
But again, why can't he jump higher? We see other people jump higher than that, and he's supposed to be one of the most powerful force users of all time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again,
all right.
Why didn't they use the force in this situation? It's all dumb. That's all I'm going to say is basically Mandalorian ending with Luke Skywalker has destroyed Star Wars. And that's how I'm going to say it. Stay with that.
So if you want to complain about Star Wars,
or Dre's incorrect interpretation of Star Wars,
NLK_podcast. You can reach out to us on Instagram at NoLifeKings, and you can email us at podcast@nolifekings.com. You can also subscribe to our new YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, we do have a YouTube channel. Smash that like, ring that bell, subscribe. Yeah. It's
and
search for No Life Kings.
That is all for today.
Cheers.
Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings
Start
podcast.
over.
Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. And coming to you in issue 37. Hey,
Way to be your own director.
hey, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Graves.
I'm Case.
Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings. Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Graves. Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Graves. Hey, welcome. Tom Brady. Hey. So, hey, welcome to the podcast. My name's Graves. I'm Case. Welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Graves.
I'm August.
And coming to you. Come on.
I like when you pause and say, is this funny? But